Hi everyone, I hope your quarantine is going well. I'm gonna talk a little bit about queer relationships. So, my general thesis of this project, I'm just gonna lay it out there at the beginning, is that our ideas about relationships have focused all knowledge and research on monogamous, largely heterosexual normative relationships. Not only is there a need to study alternative forms of relations, but there's a need to go beyond the currently existing labels, even the progressive ones, and focus on the base elements of the relationship. Just like sexuality, no two relationships are identical, and forcing them all into the broad categories necessary for what little research ends up happening skews and misrepresents a very diverse population. You may wonder why I'm talking about relationships in a class about sexuality, but even if you don't see the connection now, trust me, by the end of this presentation, you will very much see how connected this is to sexuality and gender. I just want to say that I had a really hard time finding art of non-monogamous relationships or family structures. So I did this one with some really stellar copy and paste skills. I'm just now seeing there's a phantom hand off to the left. So how would you refer to a relationship where three people raise a child together, three co-parents? When you're thinking about that, the definition of the relationship, does it matter if any of these people are in a sexual relationship with each other? Why does that matter? Why is that the first question that comes into my head when I hear about three co-parents is who are the actual parents, you know? What about two people who live together and they love each other, but they have no sexual relationship, no marriage, no engagement, no relationship of any type? Let's say they've been doing this for years and years and years. Why would their relationship be considered less valuable than a married couple who's been together for a similar amount of time? What about if it's four people who live in a van and they all take care of a dog together? Everyone's asexual, but they solve mysteries together. This is everyone's favorite polyamorists, the Scooby-Doo gang. In all seriousness, what makes these relationships strange? Why don't we even have the words to talk about these situations? Why are there so few representations outside of Scooby-Doo? I mean, you've got Scooby-Doo, you've got uh, Tiger King. I think there's one in Shameless. Let's see. I think it's implied Abby in Broad City is poly, but it's never really like thoroughly explored. So, what are compulsory heterosexuality and compulsory monogamy? Well, basically, they're talking about the idea that when only one type of relationship is discussed and represented in a society, all other options become either impossible or invisible. But I'm not here to argue that this exists. If you don't think that this exists, I have another presentation for you, but I'm here to talk a little bit about their history. Well, it might not surprise you to learn that compulsory monogamy and compulsory heterosexuality have their roots in, like many things, race, gender, and capitalism. Racially, monogamy was one of the key differences talked about by early white Christian colonialists as something that separated them from the inferior races who practice something that is much more akin to what we would refer to as a poly relationship structure. It's rooted in gender and still is rooted in gender because sexual purity is such a large component of monogamy, and it to this day is still enforced on women. Alongside with women being seen as the possession of their man, it lends itself towards a monogamous society. Compulsory monogamy serves capitalism by discouraging people sharing resources outside of just their one partner and maybe any children they have together. It stops people from forming large communes. That was a really brief overview, but if you want more information on this, the UMass professor Angela Wiley has this great book, Christian Nations, Polygamic Races. It's on there. You should check it out. If I were to define compulsory heterosexuality and compulsory monogamy to someone without talking about race or class or gender, I would just talk about the sentence, men and women can't be friends. There's so many assumptions in that sentence, and they're all built on compulsory heterosexuality and compulsory monogamy. It implies that, first of all, this means that they can't be friends, but they can be partners. It devalues friendship. It insists that a sexual relationship is more real than a companionate one. And then also this assumes that men and women are all straight. So it's really the triple whammy of compulsory heterosexuality and compulsory monogamy. So if monogamy's place in society is so bad, is there another option? Well, it's not clear. There is an umbrella of non-monogamy, but this includes, as you can see, so many different types of relationships that, depending on the researchers and the study, it could contain people with multiple partners, a relationship with multiple partners, someone who is like a swinging or a almost like monogamous relationship. Really, you can't group all these people together. And what makes it worse is that research tends to apply the label of polyamorous to all these categories. And that makes it really confusing to people who are actually specifically in one of these communities and they see the label polyamorous being used to research a group of people that may contain some people like them, but doesn't really. This is why my argument isn't just study non-monogamous people. We aren't at a point where we can study different relationships because any non-monogamous relationship is so shocking that it's automatically thrown in this pile, grouped with a bunch of things it shares nothing with. That doesn't lead to good research. Here's a quote from this book that I've really enjoyed and I think you should all check out that says exactly that. We have very little research, and the research that we do have collapses all these different types of lifestyles and relationships into one category of poly, which, as I said, was a subcategory of non-monogamy, which... So why do we care about this? As I said, compulsory monogamy is a close relative of compulsory heterosexuality, which is something everyone in this class has experienced. Every gay, lesbian, bisexual, asexual, all types of queer, and even straight people are taught to assume that the average person is straight. No one is shocked if someone comes out as straight. How many people in this class came out as gay, came out as bi before they came out as gay? It's all around us. To bring down compulsory heterosexuality, which is all about assuming the main relationship in our society is between a straight man and a straight woman, we must fight also against compulsory monogamy to show there's no ultimate relationship, that all methods of knowing someone are valuable, and that sex doesn't determine the relationship. By fighting for the acceptance of different relationship styles, hopefully more and more people will be able to see sexuality and gender as fluid and changeable, not something that's fixed throughout your entire life, as is promoted by compulsory heterosexuality and compulsory monogamy. And finally, queer people have always fought for those considered non-normative. It's a coalition, it's LGBT, it's not just the L's and just the G's. All right, well, I hope everyone learned a little bit about queer relationships. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear them on Moodle. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great quarantine.